It is Wager Talk Today, and we are live on Monday, July the 22nd. We'll be live every day this week, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on Wager Talk TV. And don't forget, First Pitch Baseball, live at 11 a.m. Eastern. I just hosted the show today. It's archived 24/7, so you can watch it here on Wager Talk TV as well after you're done with us. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He'll be back tomorrow on Tuesday. But my co-host Teddy Covers is with me as always, and we've got a loaded show for this Monday. Lots of baseball, of course, because we're in the heat of the summer. Going to start things off with Bryan Leonard. He's going to jump right in with the daytime game at 1 o'clock Eastern between the Rays and Yankees, so stay tuned. That's coming up in just a minute. Also going to look at the other New York team playing their fourth game of a weekend series, and that's the Mets and Marlins. Teddy's going to have a little post-All-Star big game, or what bettors loan, post-All-Star break nuances. I said the hard word. Couldn't say the easy words. Ross Benjamin's going to be on after that talking about Twins and Dan Alexander's Phillies. And by the way, Dan Alexander is in the studio all week here for both the baseball show and Wager Talk Today, taking any live questions you have. So once again, ask away in the chat, whether it's here on Wager Talk TV, on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Live, TikTok, Twitter, X. Man, we're on so many places. There's no excuse not to watch us. Ross Benjamin's also going to look at the Reds and Braves. Teddy's got a big game breakdown, Astros, A's, and then Andy Lang finally stopping with the damn baseball talk. Andy's going to look a little UFC 304 and NFL because football is right around the corner. And Teddy, before we get to Brian, we got to point out a great special at Wager Talk. You can get the rest of the baseball season free right now when you sign up for football, and it's an early bird price still, $7.77. Lucky Sevens get you football, college and pro, everything through the Super Bowl and the rest of baseball over a $400 value through the World Series for free. No promo code needed. Check that on at everyone's pages. Teddy Covers and myself, Steve Merrill, and also Bryan Leonard. Brian, that special is on your page right now because you do football and baseball. Welcome to the show, Bryan Leonard. Hope you are having a happy Monday.
I am, and I had everything prepared ahead of time, so I had the ability to watch your show today on the baseball. And you guys did a terrific job, although I don't know if I agree with everybody, but you did a terrific job regardless.
So I want to talk about this promo one more time real quick. This is an insane deal, Brian, before we get you going. This is for everybody, all right? Site-wide, WagerTalk.com. You get the entire NFL season. You get the entire college football season. And oh, by the way, we'll throw an MLB through the World Series. $7.77 every play, every day through February. That's as good a deal as you're going to find, folks. So, you know, if you want an NFL season pass, just the NFL, you don't have to worry about the college football. That's $5.29. You get the rest of MLB season for only $99. If you want the college football season pass, only $4.99 for every play every day. Again, you'll get the rest of the MLB season for only $99. But this combo pack, $7.77 for the entire season of NFL, the entire season of college, and the rest of the season in MLB, that's value. That's all I'm going to say there. All right. So that's one we have to hype because it's worthy of hype. That's an insane deal if you want to get on board with any of the cappers at WagerTalk.com for football. Brian, let's talk a little MLB. And we'll start. Where should we start? I'll let Steve start for us because I'm
early daytime, Teddy. There were only two series that are actually 4-game series, you know, Brian, because nobody played Thursday, right? So it happens to be the two New York teams. Teddy's New York Mets against Drew Marlins. Miami Marlins. You're going to get to that one in a moment, but I want to start off with the daytime game because the Rays and Yankees play here in about an hour exact, actually, at 1:05 Eastern. Yankees offense went a little cold this weekend, to say the least, after a decent showing on Friday. What are you doing with this one, Brian? As you know, we broke this down. Drew Martin actually had a take on this on MLB First Pitch an hour ago, so I'm interested, Brian, to hear your take on Rays and Yankees here at 1 o'clock Eastern.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy today because normally when I'm on a Monday, there's only a few games. There's only 4 teams not playing today. So there's a lot of games here. And plus, as you mentioned, Prez will be back on Tuesday, which makes being on Monday even better.
Greatest Monday ever.
But let's get back to the baseball game. As you mentioned, this is a game that's going to be starting in about an hour, so I wanted to get this one up and running. The Rays look like a team about to go on a run to me. 2 of their year-long injured starting pitchers, Drew Rasmussen and Jeffrey Springs, are out on rehab assignments right now. They just got back Shane Baz from injury, and Taj Bradley is really broken out as of late. He's been terrific. And their best starter, had Tommy John surgery. He's missed the whole season. He won't be back till next year. So they're really set up pretty well in their pitching standpoint. Junior Caminero, one of the most exciting players in the majors, in the minors, is just about ready to be promoted. And despite all the health concerns for this team, who's had a lot of injuries, they enter today with a 50-49 record, a winning record despite everything that has happened to the Tampa Bay Rays. Zach Littell takes the hill today for Tampa. He throws 5 different pitches, including 2 different fastballs, which is something that has become real popular as of late. The pitchers that are throwing these 2 different fastballs are having a lot of success. I expect that to continue here for Zach Littell. The last 2 seasons, he's really cut down on his free passes. He ranks in the 94th percentile this year in walks. The Yankees counter with Carlos Rodon, and we seem to be talking about Carlos Rodon a lot on the shows that I do. He's got a 4.63 ERA, 1.28 whip. His xERA, expected ERA, is 4.47. So basically, the veteran lefty is getting the results he deserves. Both starters are fly ball pitchers, so this isn't the best stadium to pitch in. Some will likely see some runs scored in this one, but I think Tampa Bay is the one that we're going to get the runs for, the majority of the runs, and this is a really nice price here. The Rays against lefties this season, a 118 WRC plus. They're very good against southpaws. Plenty of underdog value here for the Rays. If you don't want to play the Rays to win outright as a dog, playing the Rays on the over for team total was something that I also considered. I think the Yankees are being overrated here. Give me the Rays plus the number.
Brian, you're number 1 in MLB net profit over the last 30 days. You're number 1 in MLB net profit over the last 60 days. Top 3 finish in MLB net profit last year. Clearly, you're seeing baseball pretty clearly. So when we talk about strategies here, you just said something at the very top. You said, I think Tampa's going to go on a run right now. When you see something like that, as a bettor, are you thinking, I'm going to start playing the Rays every day until proven otherwise? I'm going to bet Tampa futures. I'm going to look for spots to bet Tampa. Talk about how you approach when you think a team's going to start winning, what the best way is to start betting on that team over the span, as you look to maximize your ROI when you see something correctly.
Yeah, everything for myself comes down to the price. So it's hard for me to say, yes, I'm going to bet them every day if they're not in the price range that I want. Is there value on betting Tampa Bay to make the playoffs? I think there's a lot of value on Tampa Bay to make the playoffs. This is a team that can still get there. This is an excellent division, but a lot of teams have played over their heads. Boston's been a good team this year. Nobody expected that. Toronto's getting ready to sell the farm. They'll be done. But this team in Tampa does have a good future, an excellent future when you take a look at next year when they get everybody back. That's going to be terrific. One of the best starting rotations in Major League Baseball. And as we've seen from a lot of teams this year, we've seen it from the Dodgers, we've seen it from a lot of good teams, you have to have a lot of depth in the starting rotation. And that's what I look for when the season starts, when I make my season wins. I look for what they have down in the minors, and I knew they were going to get these guys back. Tampa Bay right now, I'm really surprised the way the season's gone for them with all the injuries, that they are able to fight it off and are still in this position. So the best of Tampa Bay is coming up. Unfortunately, it all depends on what the prices are. Bet them to make the playoffs. That would be my top bet in that regard.
Currently 10 in the Ultra Gal East. They're in fourth, 4.5 out of the wild card. So that probably is going to be their best venue postseason wild card bid if they can catch up. And that is Bryan Leonard talking early baseball. That starts in less than an hour here. A little bonus for the live viewers here on WagerTalk Today. And we touched on this game and many others. Don't forget on First Pitch also, which went live right before at 11 a.m. Eastern every day and archived 24/7. And another game we did talk about, Bryan Leonard, is the Mets and Marlins. And I had Drew Martin on. Of course, Drew is a Miami Marlin fan. He and Joe Ranieri make up the strong 750-plus person fan base, Drew told me today on the show. But the Marlins have vastly underachieved this season, and they really overachieved last year. They made the playoffs last year with a negative run differential. They won a lot of close one-run games. The year before they had not. Those things have kind of evened out. And right now, the Rockies and Marlins are really the only 2 teams in the NL that are way out of the wild card picture. The Mets, of course, Teddy covers once again New York Mets. made their grimace run in late June. A little choppy in July. Big picture thoughts on these teams I'd be interested to hear as well, but more importantly, what are you doing with this game tonight on Monday?
At first glance, you'd think David Peterson was having a very good season. He got a 3.09 ERA compared to his 4.35 career ERA, along with a perfect 4-0 record on the season. But you got to dig down a little bit deeper, and 2 runs higher, along with a 1.42 whip. He's putting a lot of players on base, and that's been a problem for him all along. He's in the 7th percentile in expected ERA. 93% of the league is better than he is in expected ERA. 6th percentile in expected batting average. 14th% in hard hit rate. He's got a 3.09 ERA, and he's got a 4-0 record. Just does not figure up to be something that I want to bet on. He's been a career 4A player. He's one of those guys that pitched solidly in the minors, only to struggle badly when he gets to the show. I expect him to really blow up the rest of the season here. Look at the stadiums he's pitched in also. Washington twice, Texas, Pittsburgh, and his 4 home games. All pretty good pitchers' parks. And even with those pitching advantages, he's underperformed. Unlike his mound opponent, Johnny Serenas should have some positive regression. He has a 5.76 ERA, but his expected ERA is only 4.06. That's a 1.7 ERA improvement. So we're looking for him to have better stats in the future, whereas we look for Peterson to have worse. We take a look at his expected batting average. It's at the league average. His hard hit rate is 35.3%, which is better than league average. And he was hit hard in 2 road starts this year, at Philadelphia, at Cincinnati, 2 of the top 3 hitters' parks in the league. His other 3 starts, he's allowed to combine 6 earned runs in 15 innings. He's pitching in a good pitching ballpark right now in Miami, although as you mentioned on the earlier show today, that the team ERA for Miami is high at home. This is still a very good pitcher's ballpark. I like Miami here. I'm going to fade both New York teams on Monday.
So let me ask you about this. I mean, you talked about the Peterson struggles and all these the Peterson's advanced metric struggles. The Mets have won every start that he's made since the beginning of June. But his advanced metric looks bad in all these pitchers' park. He's pitching in another pitcher's park today. So why are we worried about, that he's going to and we look at these 2 lineups. I mean, even if Miami has a starting pitching edge, even if they have a bullpen edge, like these 2 lineups are in different stratospheres, aren't they, Bri? Or is Miami capable of putting up runs in bunches now?
I will point out that Miami does not hit lefties very well. That is the only drawback in this game from my situation. I think this Miami offense is starting to come around a little bit. They brought some of the guys from the minors up that are hitting well. No, they're not going to crush you in home runs. They're not one of those teams, and this is not a stadium that you give up many home runs. But take a look at the Mets. They're big power guys. Alonso's been very disappointing. We saw what happened in the home run derby, but that had more to do with his pitcher than it did for his hitting. But he is not hitting like he had in the past, the home runs. Martinez is a home run hitter. He's not hitting home runs right now. So the Mets are hitting pretty well as a team, but they're not going deep. And they're not going to go deep in this stadium very often. And if you just take a look at the expected ERA, we've got the Mets pitcher at 5.35. We got the Miami pitcher at 4.06. And you're getting them as a sizable underdog. Yeah, Miami's not one of the better teams in the league, but the Mets are a team that are a little bit overrated in my regard right now. We can just grimace and hold our noses and bet Miami, and I think we're in pretty good shape.
God, I saw what he did. I caught that instantly, Bryan Leonard. Nothing gets by me. The purple thing, that grimace thing. Yeah, the Mets went on a mighty run with the grimace throughout the first pitch, and we'll see if the All-Star break disrupts that momentum or not. The Mets with Peterson about $1.45 favorite tonight. Brian thinks the Marlins could be a little bit of a live dog. And one of the great things about WagerTalk.com is you can go to the home screen right now, the homepage at WagerTalk.com. You can see the last 3, 7, 30-day records. Click on MLB right now. You'll see Bryan Leonard has won 38 units the past 30 days. And look who's right behind him, Teddy Covers, sitting at number 2. I was number 1 about a week ago, so I was on that list. I'm not on it right now, but it's a long season. and I'm chasing these guys because they've been red hot here over the past month. But yeah, once again, you can see the records. They're transparent. They're on everybody's page too. Look, once the games start, our plays pop up. It'll say pending, and then it'll show win or loss for the last 20, and you can click on it to get the analysis as well. But Bryan, you're red hot in baseball, and Teddy's right behind you. You guys have been the two most profitable cappers the last 30 days. What do you have going for Monday at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, I've got 5 plays up right now, and they are set up there for the entire day for $19. $19 gets all 5 of our plays today. I may have more. I have numbers that I'm looking for, and if something runs into my number that I'm looking for, then I'll be able to play it. So I do add some as the day goes on. And Teddy talked about that great deal with football and also getting the rest of the baseball. A lot of success in baseball over the years for myself. Last year in college football, number 3 in net profit. So if you're looking for a football handicapper, I don't do preseason football. Just want to let you know that. But we've had a lot of success in that regard over the years. Last year, number 3. Really excited for this upcoming season.
Yeah, once again, that special is available for everybody right now. There's no promo code needed. It's quite simple. You go to Bryan Leonard's page, Teddy Covers, myself, Steve Merrill. You will see the football combo for $7.77, baseball included for free. Or if you want just college from one guy, NFL from someone else, you can still get that and add baseball for just $99. So it's a fantastic special. It's available this week only, starting today right now at WagerTalk.com. That was Bryan Leonard. I'm Steve Merrill, and this is Teddy Covers. And I mentioned, Teddy, you're seeing baseball pretty well as also. You've got a heater going tonight, a 4% best bet. You're on a 4-1, 80% run since the All-Star break the last 3 days. What is the secret to handicapping baseball? What are some nuances you look at post All-Star break in MLB?
Yeah, so we talk about it all the time. All the first half of the season, we all said, it all changed in the second half. Post All-Star break is going to be completely different. And the most notable thing we talk about, late July and August, that's where you see the minus 250s, the minus $3, the minus 350s, those prices on a daily basis. The live underdogs aren't so live. The dead teams tend to look really dead. But that's not what you're going to see immediately after the break. Every team, well, except the White Sox. And the White Sox are worthy of some mention. They're as hapless a big league as the team as you'll find. There's hapless teams I've seen since I think the 43-win Tigers back in 2003, or maybe that 51-win Astros team from 2013. I mean, Baltimore was 52 wins as recently as 2021. So it's not like teams can't go from bad to good fairly quickly. But the White Sox are pretty awful right now. They're in their own category, is my point. Most of the bad, mediocre teams, they get a little bit of a break during the All-Star break, and they come back a little bit less hapless. Bryan Leonard just talked about it. The Marlins winning 2 out of 3 against the Mets this weekend. Detroit won 2 out of 3. San Fran won 2 out of 3. The Yankees lost 2 out of 3. The Phillies lost 2 out of 3. The Braves lost 2 out of 3. That's baseball. But it's worth noting, 3 full slates of games over the last 3 days, and only one team was a $2 favorite in any game during that span. That was the friggin' Royals, because they were playing the White Sox. Every other game all weekend was like minus 175, minus 180 or lower. Monday slate's pretty much the same. Give it a week or two. The dead teams are at their deadest in August. The elite teams can be profitable, even at minus 300 sometimes, as long as they're surging. And then everything changes again with the September call-ups. But that's not anything that stood out this weekend. We'll talk about that in 5 or 6 weeks. But for now, note, the dog days of summer are still ahead of us, and these cheaper prices to fade bad teams won't be quite as cheap a week or 2 or 3 from now, and that post-break energy surge starts to dissipate. So that's what stood out to me this past weekend. Steve, back to you, my friend.
Yeah, and Teddy, I mentioned you're on that 4-1 run since the break. Well, I got to give you credit. Your 4 wins have all been plus money underdogs, so it's not like you're playing $2 favorites to pad the record. 4 straight underdog wins from Teddy on Friday and Saturday to start out of the All-Star break. Your only miss, the Oakland A's, is a favorite, which is almost comical. So
they had a 3-run lead
about the White Sox.
That made me crazy,
Yeah. And, you mentioned the White Sox, so we got to point out something else, another nuance here over the next week, the trade deadline in about a week, so that's something to keep an eye on as well with some of these guys. Skubal going tonight as a road favored Cleveland team. He's on the trading block perhaps. And you mentioned the White Sox. First thing that comes to mind for me is Crochet. Garrett Crochet, converted reliever, has been a fantastic starter this year for the worst team in baseball, has already pitched more innings than he has any other time in his career, and we're only halfway through. I think he's somebody the White Sox should unload and try to build for the future. But, Teddy, how much does that factor in? I mean, you got a team like the Blue Jays also who have been vastly underachieving this year. They could be sellers now at the deadline. Is it something you factor into your handicapping over the next week with certain players or teams?
Toronto was the team. I was thinking about it in my mind.
Yeah,
if there's one, because again, you talk about a team that had expectations, failed to live up to expectations, failed miserably to catch up to living up to expectations, and is now post All-Star break. They lost 2 out of 3, and they're likely to be, as you mentioned, jettisoning talent. I think Brian mentioned it a minute ago. So Toronto is a one-way team for me, at least right now. If I'm involved in a Jays game, it will not be supporting the Toronto Blue Jays. Not likely anyway.
Yeah, that's something we talk about in all sports. The NFL, very rarely does a team toss the towel in college or pro football, but the team that normally you have to be careful with is a team that had playoff aspirations and then vastly underachieves because it's very hard for them to get up. Whereas like a team like the Oakland A's, they've actually played better at times this year than they expected. So you don't have to worry about them tossing the towel because there's no towel to toss when you're a bottom feeder. So it's an interesting angle that we'll keep an eye on here over the next week. The trade deadline, I believe, is the last day of July here in about 9 days on July 31st. That's Teddy Covers. I'm Steve Merrill. If you're finding this useful, hey, give it a thumbs up, a like, and don't forget to subscribe to WagerTalk Today so you never miss the great free content. And if you click the bell as well, you'll get an instant alert when this show goes live at noon Eastern every Monday through Friday. And, of course, baseball first pitch is now earlier at 11 a.m. Eastern Monday through Friday here on the network. I'll be guest hosting this week. Dan the Man Alexander is in the studio every day for this show and the baseball show. He is grabbing your live questions, and we pop them on the screen when we see them. So if you have any questions, chime in on the chat on YouTube TV, on WagerTalk TV on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Live, X, the live feed on X, and even TikTok before it is banned. You can watch us on TikTok as well. A big TikTok guy, this is called a great segue, is Ross Benjamin. I think Ross Benjamin. And we're going to bring him on now to talk some more baseball. There he is. Ross.
I want to see him dance.
I think
show me the dance, Ross. Show me the dance.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
No, my dancing days are done, Teddy. But good to be with you guys, man. Coming back from a week-long vacation in New York City. Caught a few Broadway shows. Caught my beloved Yankees on Friday night. I caught them at the right time because they haven't scored a run since, I think. They won that game 6-1, Garrett Cole on the mound. So it was a great week off and ready to go again, guys.
Yeah, Ross, they were a little ice cold offensively the last 2 days, and Bryan Leonard's fading them this afternoon in about 35 minutes here. He gave out a free play on the Rays. So we'll see if that all-star hangover, for Soto and Judge and the rest of a mediocre lineup, we'll see what happens with the Yankees here going forward. Got to talk about the Philadelphia Phillies, though. Dan Alexander, of course, is contractually obligated whenever he's part of a show, and he is producing today that we talk about his Phillies. Hey, they're the best team in baseball so far this year. 3 of the 4 starters of the All-Star game in the infield were from Philly. They've got a couple great starting pitchers. They're the real deal, but I do wonder if there's a little bit of a hangover for them, kind of like maybe your New York Yankees here after the All-Star break with so many guys being involved, and they're taking on a feisty Twins team tonight. Twins-Phillies at a pick-em price, Ross. What are you doing with this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like the situation here for the Minnesota Twins. I really do. I mean, look, Ranger Suarez, sensational start to the season, no doubt about it. Definitely still a contender for the National League Cy Young Award. But, you look at his last 3 starts, an 8.62 ERA and a 1.79 whip, and then you couple that with the fact the Phillies bullpen has really struggled since the 1st of July with a 6.27 ERA, and they're 29th in Major League Baseball, meaning their bullpen in terms of home runs per 9 innings pitched. So Phillies also have dropped 4 of their last 5 on the road. Bailey Ober gets the start for the Minnesota Twins. Certainly not a household name. Certainly not a name that people are going to see when they look at today's card and jump off the board at him. But it's a name that I look inside the numbers, and he's got a 2.14 ERA and an 0.86 whip over his last 5, in addition to striking out 41 and walking only 6 during that course of time. And more importantly to me, on top of those numbers, is he's averaging 6.7 innings pitched per outing over those last 5 starts. The Minnesota bullpen, their whip has been very good since July the 1st at 102. They're the 3rd best team in Major League Baseball during that time when it comes to their bullpen strikeout to walk ratio. And this is also a Minnesota team since July the 1st a 351 on base percentage as a team, which is excellent. That puts a lot of pressure on opposing starting pitchers and relievers. I like Minnesota here, guys. I think I got them at minus 105. If you can get them at even money, even better then. But that's my pick in this particular matchup, Teddy.
So when we talk about the Twins, they just played this wild series in Milwaukee over the weekend, 2 pretty intense games. They went 12 innings on Saturday, and then yesterday's was a 1-run game. The bullpen used extensively in both those contests. Is this something that you would be worried about here? Would you look at a first 5 only, or is a full game just fine? And we're not too worried about Minnesota's bullpen. Their depth is reasonable.
Yeah, it's a good point, Teddy, and something that I did consider. But when you look at, like I alluded to, Bailey Ober over his last 5 starts is averaging nearly 7 innings pitched per outing. So now, with that kind of longevity that he's putting up right now, we're really looking at the back half of the Minnesota bullpen and probably taking a load off the Minnesota bullpen in terms of workload, I should say. So, yeah, it's a good point. But, again, I'm focusing in on the starting pitching matchup, and Ober does give you innings, Teddy. So that will somewhat lessen the concern when it comes to what you just mentioned.
Ross Benjamin going with the Twins at home at a pick-em price, and the better news that you're still on the air here after fading Dan Alexander's Phillies because he controls the switch and he did not boot you. So we are good to move on to the next game here. Hey, we talked about Reds-Braves earlier on MLB First Pitch. Brian Power actually had a pitcher prop in this game. We also I've got a free play on the side. And don't forget about the free plays. A lot of cappers have numerous free plays up every day at WagerTalk.com. I've got a free play on Reds-Braves side tonight on my page right now for Monday, along with the best bet. But, Ross, I want to get your take on the total here. We have not talked about the total yet today on Monday on the Reds-Braves. Currently set at 8. Are you going over or under tonight in Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm looking at a low-scoring game here, guys. You look at these 2 starting pitchers, both appeared in the All-Star break or All-Star game, excuse me. Hunter Green, not so good in the All-Star game, but Ronaldo Lopez pitched 1 inning of scoreless baseball. Cast that aside. I don't even consider that. Hunter Green, though, over his last 3 starts prior to the All-Star break, a 1.02 ERA and an 0.85 WHIP. He's not giving you a lot of innings. But he's going to be facing an Atlanta team that's really struggled offensively of late. I mean, as a matter of fact, they're averaging 2.9 runs per game over their last 7 games. So this sets up well for Hunter Green to give you at least a good 5.5 to 6 innings pitched. Ronaldo Lopez at home this year has just been unbelievable. A 1.24 ERA at home. And the Atlanta bullpen, since July the 1st, really good. 2.39 ERA, 0.99 WHIP. As a matter of fact, this Braves bullpen has been amongst the best in baseball all season long. Cincinnati's bullpen is not great, but they can do enough in this situation against a struggling offensive team in the Atlanta Braves. And it's really hard to say that because we think of the Atlanta Braves in recent years, Teddy. We think of this high-powered offense, puts up a lot of runs and exhibits a lot of power, but that hasn't been the case of late. And really, when you look at their overall numbers for the season, very disappointed in that regard. Of course, they had that key loss injury, so I'm sure that has a little to do with that as well.
Yeah, so the 8s are gone. We're looking at 7.5s now, pretty much across the board, looking at the free Wager Talk Live option. Yeah, I don't see any 8s still standing on that. So it's 7.5. Here's my question for you. And again, this is all it's previous history, but every meeting between these 2 teams, last year they played 6 times and all 6 of them went over the total, all 6 of them had 9 runs or more. Does that ever factor into your equation where like the series history is pointing the other direction? Or is it a non-factor when you're talking about, hey, those games were played whenever and these games are being played now?
No, it's a great question, Teddy. And yes, it does factor into my decisions. And if it was a different starting pitching matchup, of course, that would factor in even more heavily. But when I'm looking at the fact that Atlanta right now can't hit their way out of a paper bag, and you got 2 all-star caliber starting pitchers right now, in Atlanta's bullpen, how good they've been, I really you have to leave something out anytime you handicap a game, right? Very seldom are you going to find 10 good points and not find 1 point that worries you a little bit. And the 1 point that worries me a little bit, the starting pitching matchup, supersedes that. So hopefully I answered that to your satisfaction.
Yeah, Ross, that's what I've always said. There's no 100% plays, right? So we could have a 65% edge. There's still 35% that's going to concern us on something, right, Teddy?
Well, if I'm ever handicapping a game and I'm making 10 points for one side and I can't make one for the other, I know the one side's a loser. Yeah. That's no good. The bullpen's going to melt down. Something's going to happen. It almost felt like that with A's Angels yesterday. It felt so easy that I'm like, something's going, and then of course, it was an A's bullpen meltdown that cost me that stuff. Yeah. So it happens.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, I've said that before. If you also, you and I are pretty selective. We have maybe 1, 2, 3 plays a day. When I have a list of 7, 8, 9 games I really like, then I'm not seeing things clearly because I'm not a high volume guy, and that's something else. You're not in that zone, and if something looks too easy in life in general, we know how that normally turns out. Ross, before we let you go, though, we got a live question in the YouTube Shorts. Jacob Scubert's asking about the Guardians, so that's the Tigers-Guardians game. But big picture, I just want to ask you, we've got Scooble on the mound tonight as a road favorite, obviously the weaker team against the better team, but the better pitcher. And Teddy and I touched on this trade deadline right around the corner. Scooble's definitely got us getting some talk, from a non-contender maybe being moved. First of all, any thoughts on this Tigers-Guardians game for Jacob in the live chat? And if not, or if you want to kind of parlay that also to how you handicap the next week with the trade deadline.
Well, you guys have heard me say this many times. You have to think like an odds maker to be successful in this business. You're not always going to be right thinking that way, but you're going to be a half a step ahead of the rest of novice bettors when it comes to sports betting. And when you see a team like the Tigers with the record they have versus a team like Cleveland with the record they have, and the Tigers are the favorite, it certainly should open up that train of thought that why is that? And Scooble's an excellent starting pitcher, and I can't imagine, I think he would welcome the opportunity to go to a contender. And a lot of teams would love to have him right now. I hope my Yankees make a pitch for him, as a matter of fact. But then Carrasco, I believe, is going for Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken, Steve?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, Carrasco's the starter. Correct.
Yeah, he's pitched a little bit better of late. But, his overall numbers, he's not a guy that I place a lot of faith in. Let's put it this way. And especially if he's opposed by an elite starting pitcher like Tariq Skubal is.
Yeah, and Skubal, when it comes to the trade deadline, there have been rumors. He still has 2 years on his contract after this season. The Tigers manager A.J. Hinch made it very clear. His quote about selling at the trade deadline, quote, "I want to buy." I don't think Skubal's going anywhere.
I agree.
I'd be very surprised.
I agree with that.
I agree, Teddy. I agree with you.
It feels to me a lot like, look, every beat writer needs a story every day. Skubal trade rumors, we got stories. Ross Benjamin, you have been crushing it. And I mean crushing it. Let's talk about what do we got? Stuff. You put a list of streaks up there, and I can't even get through it, dude. Highlight some of those streaks. Talk about how you've been rolling for the clock.
Pick one of your hot streaks.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about football, and just to let you know, folks, you can get down early on our football specials that Teddy was highlighting earlier. My college football last year, I finished 62-42. Actually, it goes back to a specific date of September 9th of last year, and that's good for over a $4,000 profit. And also, my Major League Baseball weekday picks, I don't know, Teddy, these weekend picks for whatever reason aren't clicking. I'm sure it's one of those things that we all go through at times. For my weekday picks in Major League Baseball on a 9-1 run, my weekday totals in Major League Baseball, 50-28, good for 64%. All my weekday picks since July 28th of last year, up $9,838, and all my weekday totals since August 4th of last year, up $10,641. So yes, folks, a lot of good stuff going on right now. I mentioned weekday. You must think I suck on the weekends, but it's just, it all evens out over the long run when it comes to that. We'll get that going as well.
Well, hey, Ross, all seriousness, I've talked a lot about this recently. I think Sunday's the most random day of baseball because there are a lot of early daytime games. It's getaway day for almost all the teams. So even though that might sound strange to some people talk about weekday versus weekend, I think with baseball, there is a difference on Saturdays and especially Sundays. So there is something to that. And as a handicapper, I sometimes tread a little bit lighter now on Sundays for that reason. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And regardless, you want to follow Ross, he will be doing football standalone videos this fall. He's done a lot for the NBA playoffs, as I did. And this coming fall, we're going to have a lot of content here on Wager Talk TV, and Ross will be a big part of that. That's why he is exclusive now on WagerTalk.com. So looking forward to seeing that. Click subscribe, click the bell as well so you never miss the free play videos when they pop up. That is Ross Benjamin, ladies and gentlemen. Teddy, we're going to get to Andy Lang in a moment. And don't worry, we will break up the baseball talk with Andy. We'll have some NFL and some UFC. But you're going to finish us off with the baseball talk here, the big game breakdown. This is also your free play tonight at wagertalk.com. Check out those free plays as well. But you're talking big game breakdown, Astros and Athletics for Monday night.
Absolutely. Big game breakdown time. The Houston Astros road favorites at the Oakland Athletics. Right now, look at the free Wager Talk live odds screen. We're seeing Houston minus 140, minus 145 on the road. Total 8.5, juice to the over. We have seen pretty heavy over money since this line opened last night, and I agree with that assessment. The A's 3-0 to the over since the All-Star break. 5-0 to the over, their last 5 dating back before the break. They scored 13, 10, 16, 21, 16, flying over the total. 5-0 to the over, their last 5 at home, every game, 9 runs or more. The Oakland A's are third in WRC plus over the last 30 days. This offense is clicking, all right? The lineup is hitting right now. They're getting productive at bats and consistent production. It's not like they're having these, scoring 10 runs one game and 1 the next. It's been at least 3, 4, 5 runs on a night-in, night-out basis. So, of course, the A's have seen Spencer Arrighetti twice already this season. They hit him both times. 10 innings, 10 hits, 5 walks, 5 runs. Arrighetti in trouble repeatedly in those 2 contests. Of course, Arrighetti's a guy who has a 6.70 road ERA, more than 2 runs higher than home. He's 1-5 on the highway. Like so many young hurlers, don't necessarily want him in hostile environments. And the Astros 0-3 with him on the hill in July, 2-5 the last 7 starts. You can certainly make a case for the A's as being live underdogs against Arrighetti in Houston today. That being said, the Astros lineup got to Bryan Wu yesterday, and Wu's been great. That's a real positive sign for Houston. Hogan Harris is no Bryan Wu. You want to talk about a pitcher who's been in trouble in every inning? His last 3 starts, he's given up 10 walks and 18 hits. He didn't finish the 4th inning twice. He didn't get it out of the 5th the other time. And yet he's only given up 8 runs. So he's literally been in trouble in every single inning that he's been pitching over his last 3 outings. And he's worked his way out of a bunch of jams. If he does that today, maybe the game stays under. But I'm not convinced that Harris is someone that Houston's not going to be able to hit. And the A's bullpen showed us again yesterday why they can't be trusted. A 5-2 lead in the 8th turns into an 8-5 loss. 3 different relief pitchers came in and were ineffective. They can't get to Mason Miller. He's only 1 save since June 22nd. Look for the over tonight in Oakland. I think these 2 teams get to 9 runs or more. And I wouldn't argue if you want to take a look at the A's at the plus price in this one. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
It's Teddy covers, and once again, he's on an 80% run since the All-Star break. 4-1, his 5 plays, and all 4 have been outright underdog winners. You might want to check out his 4% strong best bet tonight for Monday at wagertalk.com. I've also got a strong 4% baseball play going tonight as well. So check us out, and don't forget, you can get us free, both Teddy, myself, and every other capper. When you buy our football package right now, you get a substantial discount, $777 for all college and pro football through the Super Bowl, and you get to add the rest of baseball, which is over a $400 value, for free. You make money by saving money. This is how you invest. This is a great time to buy low and invest and capitalize on the entire football season and baseball along the way. No promo code needed. Every capper right now, this week only, wagertalk.com. Andy Lang, you will be with us this Friday, but we like you so much, we're bringing you on Monday here on each end of the week. And little birdie just told me I might be guest hosting Friday, Andy. So you get double Steve, double Teddy, double Andy this week, which is always nice. Kyle Anthony will be on Thursday, by the way. He'll be talking UFC 304. Andy, you'll be on again Friday. But let's get a little sneak peek here while we have you on Monday. Main event, of course, is Edwards Muhammad, but you're going to look at something on the undercard here for UFC 304 this Saturday.
Yeah, Molly McCann is fighting as she normally does over in Europe, and I'm really surprised you're getting plus money on the under 2.5. Molly McCann's last 4 fights have ended in the first round. Like she's an under machine, and the last 3 have ended by submissions. She knocked out Hannah Goldie, so there's been KOs and submissions. She's ultra aggressive. She just pushes forward and really forces the issue. The crowd gets really behind her. She gets hyped up, and she's fighting Bruna Brazil. And Bruna Brazil's last couple UFC fights have gone the distance, but those were against like wrestlers and fighters that like to clinch. This is not what Molly McCann is going to do. Before that, Bruna Brazil actually got knocked out by Denise Gomes. And on Contender Series, she knocked out Marnik Mann. So we know that she has a susceptible chin, but she also has knockout power herself. So I'm really surprised at this plus money on 2.5. Molly's going to come out like an absolute cannon. She's going to try and end early. And if she doesn't end it early, she absolutely could get finished herself, as she's lost to a couple submissions. So plus money on under 2.5 in a Molly McCann fight. I'll take it all day.
So what are the markets seeing here? Because this is one of these scenarios where you're like, look, each of the last 4 fights for this fighter ended in the first round. You know, she's crushing people, and yet the markets are, 2.5 juice to the over. So, I mean, where did this line come from, and why is it as high as it is? Or are they just trying to split the difference between one fighter that's been going the distance and the other that's been playing these first round knockouts? Talk to me about how these totals get set for UFC.
I would love to have a really intelligent answer on how they set the lines on some of the totals. Some of them I just don't understand. I mean, the book set prices on, fight to go the distance, over or under 2.5 rounds, and then you got some fights that are even 1.5 rounds. How they came up with plus money on 2.5, I don't get. It probably is because Bruna Brazil's last 2 fights have gone the distance, but she fought Loma Lukebomi. That's a wrestling, kind of grappling type of match. Shauna Bannon, that was a lot of clinching up against the fence. The stylistic just doesn't make any sense. I would be stunned if this stays plus money for the rest of the week. There's no way I'm the only person that's noticed that you're getting plus money on a Molly McCann fight to go under 2.5 rounds. Like, it's not even 1.5 round. It's under 2.5. So you can get a finish in the first, in the second, or in the first half of the third round, and you still cash it. So, most of the time I agree with the lines on the totals, Teddy, but on this one, I'm confused. I'll gladly take the plus money.
It's Andy Lang talking a little UFC 304 for this upcoming Saturday, and of course, Andy will be back with us on Friday live here on WagerTalk Today, and he might very well have a little bit more UFC. We shall see, but he covers darts, lacrosse, all these crazy sports. You even cover a crazy sport called the NFL. So let's talk about that, Andy. Give us a little. He is the prop master, by the way, for those of you that are new to WagerTalk TV. Andy, a little preseason futures prop, not a preseason prop, but it's a futures prop here during the preseason. Player props, these are fun. Gives you something to root for all season, right? 17 games. You got a particular team or player you can follow, and you're going to look at Deshaun Watson. I find this one very interesting because he's obviously not only a controversial guy, but a guy I think is very tricky to handicap. What will he do this season? Will he be a big part for that team, or is he a guy you're looking to maybe fade?
I'm looking to fade Deshaun Watson. I like here in Indianapolis, man, when they drafted him, I was just like, oh my God, here the Colts get to face Deshaun Watson twice a year for the next decade. Now his career is completely turned around. I'll take his under 3,300 yards passing under. This guy played 6 games last year. He's coming off a bad shoulder injury. And when he did play last year, he played in 6 games, only threw for 1,115 yards in the total of those 6 games. You add that up, even if he played 17 games, he's not on pace to get over this 3,300 yard. And then you look at his career, and the last 2 years in the 12 games that he has played for Cleveland, he's averaging 6.5 yards per pass net, way below what he did in Houston. So I'm just not seeing where the production comes from Deshaun. And this shoulder injury just makes me really, really nervous. And Teddy, like we always talk about, one injury and you miss a few games, and it's just going to be impossible to get the over here. So not sold that Deshaun Watson is healthy. I'm not sold that he's going to be productive. So a lot of signs point me towards the under on this one.
So when we think about what Cleveland wants to do offensively, in theory, there's supposed to be a lot of Nick Chubb, but Chubb was hurt last year. I don't know if he's going to be anything like the back that he was coming back. There may be more pressure on Watson this year to throw the football around. And obviously, we know that he's capable. He had 3 consecutive years where he wasn't hurt prior to the stretch. Again, we haven't seen a healthy Deshaun Watson since 2020. But the 3 years, the 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020, flew over this total every time, had the makings of an elite NFL QB. Are you worried at all that we see that Deshaun Watson this season if he's healthy?
Yeah, it's a good point about Chubb. What a brutal injury. I'm not sure he's going to be, that effective moving forward, and they're a little bit light there at running back. So, yeah, maybe they do ask him to throw a little bit more. I'm just not sold that he's going to be able to do that. He hasn't shown to be a premier passer since in Houston, so maybe he has a few more pass attempts, but in the end, you're right. Cleveland wants to run the ball. Maybe they just stick to it a little bit more. So, you look at some of his pass attempts and completions in the game, 20, 19, 27, 22, 16. Those are his completions. Even if he goes up a few in there, with the risk injury of the injury risk injury, I can't get there on the over, even if they do ask him to throw it a little bit more this year.
Andy Lang talking a little football prop for the coming season. I like the Deshaun Watson prop. He's obviously going to be a key figure in the NFL, and especially for the Browns. And yeah, you think of them as a good defensive team, maybe a run-based team, but I think the running back situation is going to be the key if he has to throw more. And you also have to wonder, do they play from behind? Are they going to be a winning team? That comes into the equation too, if you have passing yards or not. Jameis Winston, by the way, is now on the team. He's the backup heading into the preseason. They picked him up. So there is somebody they could bench him with that has some NFL experience if needed as well. But, Andy, as you know, with the injuries, you always have intrinsic value with futures, whether it's season win totals or anything with the under, because it's kind of priced to how it should play out. And if something happens, is there an injury or there's a bench situation, some definite intrinsic value there to the under 33.5. There'll be no pushes, 3,300.5 total passing yards. Gotta love that.
Don't get hooked.
I just love that. I love the 0.5, right? They're not going to hold your money for 5 months and have to give it back on a push. You're going to win or lose, damn it, with these future plays, and they all got a half. And Teddy, that season win totals all have a half for that same reason, right? I don't think in 20-some years I've ever seen a whole number. Yeah.
Season win totals have whole numbers all the time. I've had numerous handful of pushes over the years. Yeah.
I guess that's true. But my point is, they try to set them though in halves, I think. And they kind of migrate to wholes, I guess was my point. But you're right.
Yes.
They'll end up migrating their way to a whole number based on the juice. But that's the thing with futures. They're holding your money for 5, 6, 7 months, right? So they want to try to get a result on the sportsbook side as well with those half points whenever possible. Hey, that's Andy Lang. He is the prop master. He covers those off sports, which is a great way to diversify your bankroll. Look, he does the NFL as well. But Andy, I know you do incredibly well with some of those sports like darts, lacrosse, UFC. Tell us what you got going on at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, we hit our 5% play of the week last week. Again, that's a 9-2 run on these plays of the week. We've got our cross-sport parlay of the week that's up right now. 9-2 run on those, plus 83 units this year. So the bankrolls are just, they're very, very happy right now. Number 1 in July, we're up 37 units just in the month of July. So we're running really, really hot in these sports that may be a little bit off of everyone's radar, but we had a big week in Formula One. We had a great week at the Open Championship. So these sports that we cover are just really, really on fire right now, and we look to continue it this week. So, but it starts with that 5% parlay. You can grab that. Like I said, 9-2 run. We're number 1 lifetime, number 1 this year on those. So grab that, wt.buzz/AL over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, and the live chat is pumping with you on, Andy. Abid, Eric D, Ray D'Amico, Tyler. They're all singing your praises. They're also talking about the road to the millions. It's been a fantastic series here on Wager Talk TV. So once again, hit subscribe, hit the bell as well, and check out Andy Lang, not only here on Wager Talk TV, but also WagerTalk.com. A great way to diversify your bankroll. All right, Teddy, that'll do us for Monday. Prez will be back tomorrow on Tuesday, but don't worry, Teddy. I'll be on the show tomorrow as well, so I'll be here to keep him honest. And we also will have a special $2 Tuesday capper. I'm not the $2 capper. He'll be on first, but then I'll be on afterwards. So you have to stay tuned to find out who that is. But I will be on tomorrow, and then I'll be guest hosting with you again on Friday. Teddy covers Red Hot Baseball, 80% since the All-Star break. We both have best bets tonight. We both have free plays as well. And most importantly, you can get us and any capper entire football season, get the rest of baseball for free right now with that $7.77 special at WagerTalk.com. Teddy, I will see you again tomorrow. Take us home.
I look forward to it, Steve. And that's going to wrap it for the Monday edition of Wager Talk Today. 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon for you back east each and every weekday right here on Wager Talk TV. Between now and tomorrow's show, enjoy the games and best of luck with all your bets. Cheers.